Welcome to the Elite BSC podcast, where our entire focus is helping commercial janitorial contractors succeed. You want a growing company, a thriving team, and healthy profits, and we are here to help. My name is Jordan Tong. I'm the founder of Elite BSC, a company dedicated to helping janitorial companies grow and thrive. I also serve as CEO and one of the owners of France Building Services. France is a janitorial company employing nearly 600 people. Since 2007, we grew from 1.5 million to more than 20 million in annual revenue and built what I think is one of the best teams in the world. The goal of Elite BSC and this podcast is to give owners in the industry a vision of where their company can be and the information and tools to get there. I want to share what I have learned over the years to make this a reality for you. Hey, building service contractors, this is Jordan Tong. So for those of you that don't know, just maybe this is a little side note here, building service contractors is sort of the fancy word for us professional commercial janitorial companies. So I think some people back in the day thought, janitorial company is not professional enough of a title, so building service contractors is what we're called now. So BSCs. Anyway, hope you BSCs are doing well. Today's podcast, I've got a little bit of something different here. So each week for the mastermind group that we run through Elite BSC, we have about 150 member companies involved. It's a group for owners in the industry. So one of the things that we do for that group is part of being a member is that we provide weekly content for our members, typically in the form of video content. It's almost always a video content. And these are training videos that try to help you in all the various aspects of growing your business, running your business. And a lot of different topics that we've encountered over the years at our company and try to flesh those out a little bit and maybe give some practical advice. So in this podcast, I'm going to play the audio to one of the videos that Jeff and I recently did. Jeff Carmen, who's sort of my co-star on these videos. He was our VP of sales for a number of years at our organization. And this video is talking about how to pursue educational facilities. So this is an area that there was a time when we did not have any business in this segment. To now that we've been growing some in this area, and obviously we have a desire to do more there. But we sort of break down what this space looks like, what its challenges are, what its advantages are, and how one might go about pursuing educational facilities themselves if they wanted to give that a shot. So you'll probably hear in the video something mentioned about some websites that you can go to get information about schools in your area, like finding contact info and names of schools, etc. If you can't find that, feel free to reach out to me, jordan@elitebsc.com, and I can send over a link to you of what those websites are that may help you track down some of the info that you're looking for. So, without further ado, we're going to switch over to this audio from this piece of content that we gave, and I hope it serves you well. Hey, so in some previous videos, we talked about selling to some different types of customers, and we've covered medical facilities and manufacturing facilities. And so in this video, we're going to talk about selling to schools, educational facilities, which is a bit different. And let's talk about maybe, and just there's public and private schools, and it's kind of a broad category bit. So maybe let's talk about some of the pros and cons of this overall segment of education.
Yeah. So let's talk about some good things about it. First of all, it's steady work. Typically, the economy's not going to affect it too much. Mm-hmm. So that's a really nice part of it. It's a good work environment for the most part. You're inside, controlled environment. It doesn't have those kinds of elements that you might find in other, like in manufacturing in particular. I would say this, it may be a little bit easier to recruit, and I don't know how to put a finger on this, but it seems to be there might be a little less stigma associated with being a custodian at a school versus a janitor at a manufacturing facility. And that's that's just my opinion, but that might be the case. And then in most situations, in most schools, whether it's a K through 12 school or if it's a college or a university, there tends to be a decent amount of additional services opportunities that are there. Okay. The con part of this, or the downside of this, is that if you're going to pursue public institutions, there's certainly a process, almost like a calling on government, because I guess it is sort of government. Private schools can tend to have limited funds, and so you just need to go in with that mindset. So they're going to be pretty price conscious. And then the last part, and it goes back to one of the advantages, is the window to do additional services is typically short. So you're doing it during breaks, and so you've got to be able to staff up pretty quickly with a good number of people in order to get that stuff done.
So you have the issue of Christmas break and summer break that you have to sort of navigate.
Yeah, and what we're finding in the public schools is they use that building for camps and those kinds of things. And so you used to think, oh, I'd have June, July, and August to do it. Well, now what you have is you have 2 weeks at the end of July to get it done. And so so that can be a bit of a challenge.
Okay, yep. So we've had, I guess, some decent success here. We've the public portion has been a bit harder for us to get into, and understandably, and in our state in particular, it's not been something they've outsourced a lot in the past.
Right.
And the margins seem decent to us, and I think there's a higher level of customer loyalty here.
Yeah,
probably.
That's right.
So, but let's talk about this. Because some of our success has been maybe more in the private versus the public. Let's talk about the difference between those two, the public and private schools, whether it's primary school or we're talking about colleges or whatever.
Yeah, so public institutions, colleges as well, typically are bound by some type of state, maybe federal, but it's probably state. It's all state, I think, mandated purchasing restrictions. And so you need to, and that's going to be different state to state on what that is, but you need to know that process. And there's certainly a process for doing that. And you have to step through that process. Because of that, this segment, public institutions, is a pretty good opportunity for minority-owned and women-owned companies, and so that's something to think about as well. And then the other thing I would say is, in most cases, public schools, whether we're talking about a K through 12 system or a public university, are typically pretty large. And so if you're going to take that on, be ready to jump in there with both feet.
I think maybe that's why it's so hard to sell, is it's such a large contract, and it's still a little bit new territory, even for us, to know how aggressive you can get on pricing, et cetera. And so when you're bidding on $1 million or $2 million job, like it's difficult to land that against other people who've got experience doing that.
That's right. Well, and one of the things about that, one of the approaches that we've taken with public schools is this: most public schools, there's a I guess, in a lot of cases, especially if there's not a lot of outsourcing like there is in Kentucky, there's some protection for those custodians built in. And so the school system itself says, man, we don't want to kick these custodians out of work. But if you talk to the people in the school system who are responsible for getting the buildings clean, they're saying, we can't hire people. And so they're looking to us. And so one of the things that we found that's a pretty nice balance to that is to say, hey, you keep your daytime custodians and we'll clean your building at night. And so that's an avenue that you can get in to working with public schools. It's good. On the flip side, private schools are like selling to a private company. I mean, they're not bound by any regulations for a bid process or anything like that. The one thing I would say about private schools is some can be very, very small. I mean, there's private schools out there that have, less than 50 students, and so you just kind of have to think through that. And what I would say, and again, I mentioned some can have limited funds. I mean, they're just working on a shoestring budget, while others are, tuition's really high, and they've got plenty of budget to go around. One of the things I would say too is when you're setting up a sales database and you put in segments, we separate out K through 12 public, K through 12 private, colleges private, colleges public, because the decision making is different and the approach is different.
Okay. So let's say somebody was wanting to break into this space, and really of all the spaces that people do in our industry, I think this is probably the hardest one to break into. Maybe not as much private schools, maybe because it's one of those that it typically takes one to get one a lot of times. And that can be a difficult hurdle. You don't have that as much in manufacturing or office or even most medical stuff, unless you start getting into surgery centers and things. So what would be some advice for people like trying to get into this market, saying, hey, this is a way we can diversify our company and be stronger?
So this may seem like just obvious information, but like we've said in the other videos, is the first thing to start with is creating a list of schools, public, private schools that are in your area. The good news is this is probably one of the easiest of the prospects to do prospect research on.
Yeah.
All you have to do is say Google search private schools near me, or private schools in Western Kentucky, and you're just going to get a list. And there's a lot of information that's out there. Finding the contact person is easy. They might even have the person's picture and their email address and their telephone number. So that's nice.
They often do.
Yeah. Include in most of the time you can find pretty easily what size school that you're dealing with. So there's a private school list, and you see the enrollment. I would learn about, before you contact any of these, just like I would with a manufacturing facility or medical office. I'd do a little Google search before I contacted them, find out a little bit about what's going on there. If they've got a large staff and they've got a lot of activities, and you see their campus and it's big, they probably have a decent amount of dollars. If you look at them and their location is a church. That's probably a small, so you have to think about that. But I would say this is develop, in all of these segments, develop an understanding of the pricing. We can help with this as well. So there's 3 distinct parts. In many cases, you'll have to have what we would call a day porter. In most settings, maybe a daytime custodian or 2. Knowing how to price that's typically going to be somebody who works 4 to 6, maybe 8 hours. The second is cleaning at night and doing the nighttime cleaning, and there's some production rates that we would apply to that. And then lastly is the additional services, and we always break that out and keep that separate and price that separately. But the key is, like we've already said, you got to figure out how you're going to staff up to do that stuff.
Yep. So I hope this is helpful. One of the things I think about, this is sort of like medical. This is one of those things that is a bit more recession-proof and has some stability to it. And so I think it's worthwhile to pursue. If we can be of any help in that, please let us know, and we'll see you next time. If you found the information in this podcast helpful, please like and subscribe on whatever podcast platform that you're using. If you would like more resources or help to grow your cleaning company, head over to elitebsc.com. We have loads of articles, videos, free tools, coaching options, and a lot more. If your company is greater than $500K in revenue and you want to take your learning experience to the next level, check out our mastermind group. You can learn more about that at elitebsc.com/mastermind.